Hello everyone! Once again, going live here on World Soil Day, which is very quickly becoming one of my favorite days of the year. Such a good day to celebrate the earth, and so nice also to connect with other people who celebrate the earth and love soil. I don't have any under my fingernails right now because I've had rather a computer-driven, Instagram live-driven day, but those are my favorite days when I get soil under my fingernails. And I learned on one of my lives today, because I've been doing them all day pretty much, that when you get soil under your nails, it's like a slow release medicine, because soil has all these pheromones in it. When we smell soil, it definitely interacts with our brain and it goes into our systems. And we are affected grandly and positively by soil. Here we go. Which I think is so cool. So I am Arizona. I am the founder of Dirt, which is the charity whose Instagram you are watching right now. And I'm about to have a conversation with Sheila Foster, who's the executive director of the Biodynamic Demeter Alliance in the United States. And it's going to be so nice to talk to her. It's the first time that we've done this. She and I have gotten to know each other really quite well over the last year because I'm a board member on that alliance in the US, the Biodynamic Demeter Alliance. We talk a lot about biodynamics and how it can grow as a movement so that more soil can be cared for biodynamically and so that more people can experience biodynamics. I can speak for myself, at least, that biodynamics, even though I'm not yet a fully fledged biodynamic farmer, has already helped me, impacted my life so greatly. It's amazing. Going to spend time on biodynamic farms is really special. Going to spend time with biodynamic farmers is really special. Every single time, I learn so much about myself, about the earth, about my connection to it, about my place in the ecosystem. How can I perform my role as a human on this earth? There
Holy
we go!
mackerel, we did it!
Yay! We did it at last. Oh, you look like you are outdoors somewhere very lovely. How are you, Sheila?
I'm good. So, I was saying that it is kind of amazing when you think about it, that this technology where you can be in Europe. I'm here in Oregon. We're like sending images up to the satellites and back down and having a conversation. It's pretty incredible.
It is, isn't it? Pretty incredible. And talking about this beautiful earth that we all live on. So I've given a brief introduction about you and how we met and the Biodynamic Demeter Alliance and me and things like that. But I wanted to start by asking you, when was your first moment that you realized you cared about soil?
Oh my gosh. Um, you know, I think the clearest memory comes to me when I was a little child and I was on my family farm. We had a 500-acre farm in Ohio that I would have been the fifth generation to manage that farm. And I remember my grandfather taking me out and walking with me on the land. And it was this beautiful, dark, loamy soil. And it had so many treasures. And I loved animals. And so being able to dig in the soil and find the animals was just so amazing to me. And I think it was that same soil that really motivated me to change, because unfortunately my family had farmed conventionally for generations. They didn't, and then they started farming conventionally and using
Like
lots of
so many other farmers, yeah.
so many other farmers. And in Ohio, that was the way you made money. It was the only way to make money. And so um, but what I watched through the years is that soil change from that beautiful loamy soil that my grandfather had shared to me into this sort of dusty gray, lifeless material. And that was really the motivator for me to focus my life on how do we build healthy soils? How do we care for our planet in a better way? How do we grow food? Because if the soil that it's nutritious, how in the world can the food itself be nutritious, or any of the parts that come out of the ground? Like it's all interlinked.
It is totally all interlinked. I used to think that soil was kind of boring, believe it or not, that it was like, oh, what is there to learn about soil? I had no idea. And then the more I learn about it, the more I realize that it's actually so crazily intertwined with everything that we do in our lives as humans and intertwined with the lives of every single thing that lives on this earth is soil. Soil is even at the bottom of the ocean, of course. Like there's soil everywhere.
Yeah,
Absolutely everywhere.
yeah. In fact, I started my career as a marine biologist, and marine snow is a really big deal. And there's so much stuff that's coming off the land that's going into the ocean that we need to pay attention to too. And I loved that video that you did about water. You know, just we all think that it's you can stand there and think they're not intertwined, and they're totally intertwined. And I know by Demeter, you know, making sure that those interrelationships are clear is really important.
Yeah, exactly. That video that Sheila just mentioned is about how all of our agricultural chemicals are running off into water and getting into streams and lakes and rivers and seas and all the oceans, and they are everywhere. And that's part of the reason why she and I feel so passionate about biodynamics, is because biodynamics is a way to farm using absolutely no chemicals at all, because the chemicals are there to support the life on the farm when the life is unhealthy. But if the life is healthy, you don't need the chemicals. So it's not like harder farming to do it without chemicals, and chemicals is the easy way out. It's a totally different system that doesn't feed life when you're using chemicals. And some people even call it like farming for death, because it is just about managing death on your farm. Whereas a biodynamic farm is about managing life and how things can grow, and each thing can support the other thing growing. And you understand that there's companion plants. So some plants grow better next to other plants and than they would on their own, which makes sense when you think about a forest. Obviously nothing grows on its own. Everything is together. Even a grassland is so filled with many different types of species. It's richly biodiverse. And then we turn our farms into one field with one crop on them. Like, how can we expect that to work? Really, it doesn't make any sense. And this is something that's really great about regenerative agriculture, is that regenerative agriculture looks at nature and goes, okay, let's do that, because that works really well. That's really cool. So,
and particularly biodynamics, because there's such a wide range of what is regenerative agriculture. And I think one of the key with biodynamics is that that awareness of those interrelationships and that connection, and that's how you build that soil. And I think that's one of the tragedies often with how farming has evolved conventionally, as it becomes this exercise in diminishing returns, and these farmers who are working their hearts out aren't getting the same productivity or anything out of their land, and they're losing. Like, one of the wonderful things about being a farmer is the relationship that you can have with the land. And I think that's one of the places that the Biodynamic Demeter Alliance and the Biodynamic Federation internationally is really focusing our attention, is how do we rebuild that relationship with the earth so that farmers can feel that relationship, because that relationship is what will feed the rest of us.
yeah, definitely. So what are your hopes and dreams for soil in the future, Sheila, and what are you working toward? Tiny
I would love to see that every person that is eating or buying clothes or anything basically related to life has this deep awareness of soil, that they are so clear that soil is where our life starts, and that we need to nurture that, and that in some ways soil is protected in the same way that, you know, the gold in Fort Knox is protected, that it's seen as the foundation of our economy and our life, and that huge efforts go into really protecting and caring and nurturing for that soil, so that when my age, we have a beautiful, thriving planet, and that we've been able to hold water, sequester carbon, and all kinds of other things, and heal our planet through our soil.
Yeah, that's an amazing vision. I love it. Oh, so good. My vision for soil is that, definitely that, and that we start to work these protections into our laws and into our business operating documents, because it seems like without that, certainly now when our whole society relies so heavily on laws and lawmakers and so heavily on corporates and their structures, without us writing these things in and ratifying them, I don't see how we're going to be able to move toward a future where that's true. And it's exciting to see that, you know, there are some laws that protect soil. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but there need to be lots more.
Absolutely. I mean, wouldn't it be interesting if there was like an international soil treaty, you know, where we as a global community started really talking about soil?
Yeah.
I mean, about all the migrations of people that are having to leave their beautiful, their soil has been depleted to the point where they.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I needed to adjust my neck here.
What that would be so exciting.
It would be so exciting to have a global treaty where everyone agreed to some basic principles about soil protection, soil health, and soil pollution. What is soil pollution? If we could agree on a universal definition of that, that would be pretty cool, because right now you would guess by looking at the way people treat soil that we actually don't even have a definition about that, because some people are okay to pour totally toxic chemicals in vast quantities into soil, neighboring their factories and big facilities that are creating effluents of toxic waste. And some people seem to think that that's okay, and our law right now doesn't really say much about that. It might give a financial penalty, but the financial penalties tend to be so small that they get worked into the annual budgets of these companies, because they're like, oh sure, fine, we'll pay that. There's a really interesting movement that we could talk about now called Stop Ecocide. And Stop Ecocide addresses exactly that problem, where they say, actually, why don't we make nature an entity, a legal entity, just like a human is, so that then anyone, you and me, or any of us, could go to court on behalf of nature, whichever piece of nature needed it. So if a river was being polluted, I could file a case in a court and say, I'm acting on behalf of the river. I've noticed that this river is toxified. Here we go. How powerful would that make nature and us? And also it would mean that the directors of whichever company was polluting the river would be actually criminally accountable, because this would be then, if you're a legal entity, you can then be present in the criminal court. Your case can be there, rather than in the civil court, which can only talk about penalties. So this is a really big solution that would be just incredible to see happen everywhere. And it is happening. It's being talked about in very important parliaments and being taken really seriously as a solution. And it is, of course, something that Indigenous wisdom has told us, that nature is alive and nature is an entity. And in fact, we are one of nature. We have a role in the ecosystem. And humans, we've kind of been neglecting our role in the ecosystem, totally neglecting it, because we live in cities, we're very disconnected, and it would just be amazing to see a future where we get it, that we are in nature. We are a species that makes a part of biodiversity.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the pieces that soil can bring to us is, you know, there is so much biodiversity in the soil that we don't even think about. And just like there's so much biodiversity in our world that is being diminished, that we, you know, we haven't even known. You know, how can we use all of this information that we're gathering about soil to celebrate and get people to just fall in love? Like, that's why I love all the work that you're doing. You know, people just need to fall in love with our earth all over again, fall in love with our soil all over again, and see it as just this incredible piece that shows us how intertwined we are. And that's where I think, you know, supporting organizations like the Biodynamic Demeter Alliance is really important. Supporting organizations like DIRT is really important. All of us who are working to try to get the word out to help everybody understand that we are part of this web of life, and that this isn't a negative, right? That's one of the things that I find so exciting, is it's not a negative thing to think of ourselves. It's like this whole awakening that happens once you realize you're part of this web of life.
Oh, it's
It's
amazing.
incredibly empowering. feeling.
It is. It really, really is empowering and exciting. I feel like my brain turned on when I became interested in the environment and in social culture and how we could make it better. That's when I got really inspired and started to love my life so much more than I did before. Totally. I saw a really interesting question come in that I would love for us to talk about. It's from Shamanic Studies, and the question is, how can we make city dwellers alienated from soil actually tune in to the cycle of life and growth into the womb of soil? What a beautiful question. Thank you so much. I think about this a lot. I am a city dweller. I am one. I cannot compost because I live in London and my municipality doesn't collect compost. And I don't have access to land because I live in an apartment. In London, we call it a flat. And so that is such a big deal. I feel like it's a great injustice that in 2022, humans are living in apartment living, knowing, as in my case, that what I'm doing, throwing food waste into the trash bin, is an incredible injustice to the earth. And it's not fair that I have to do that. So I feel really strongly about getting municipalities to collect food waste and garden waste and be responsible with it. It needs to go into soil. I also have an amazing friend called Josh Witten who started the movement called makesoil.org. And he says, we don't even have time for municipalities to get their infrastructure right to collect compostable waste. We need people to do it themselves. And he promotes the idea that anyone can start a soil site, start composting, should go around knocking on all the neighbors' doors and say, please, will you bring me your soil, your composting pieces? I need it. And that the ask for help, he says, I believe him 100%, says is such a powerful way to build community, to say, I need your help. Can you help me? And then the help you need is for them to bring you their waste. It's amazing. And then you start making soil together and then you check on the soil together. And so I feel like composting is probably one of the most important tools that we have in getting city dwellers to reconnect with land, reconnect with soil, even though the soil under cities is, of course, underneath layers and layers of concrete and tunnels. I mean, I live in London where we have an amazing underground system. It's really great in terms of public transport, but it means that soil has been dramatically endangered, harmed. All those words apply, I think, to the underground intricacies of a city. So thank you for asking that question. Would you like to answer it as well, Sheila?
Yeah, I live in a fairly small town, Ashland, Oregon, which is doesn't have the municipality to have a program like that, but we have this wonderful organization or business called Rogue Produce, and in addition to buying from our local farmers and creating sort of a local shopping area, they also go around and collect compost from people. So for $55 every 3 months, I have a bucket that can go out on my front porch, and he comes by and he picks it up and he takes it out into the country to the local farmers, and they're building soil with it. And our local Rotary Club at the farmers market has a collection site where for free people can bring their compost bucket. It all goes into a giant bucket, and they produce comes by and they take it out to the farmers and they make soil. And so I think, to what you were saying, it doesn't need to be a complicated system necessarily, but you do have to have commitment. And I think, as the community realizes what a nice, it's great. People talk to each other. They get to learn more about soil. It's a really fun program.
Yeah, it really is. Would anyone in our audience like to ask us any more questions before we wrap up? This is a brief Instagram live. Of course, we would want to talk about this topic for years and years and years more. And guess what? We will. We will. We absolutely will. Nice comment. Yay, we need more compost collectors. Yes, we do. So much fun. So much fun.
Well, I'm just so grateful, Arizona, for all the work that Dirt is doing to raise awareness around soil and biodynamics and and just how we can all be caring for each other and for the planet better. It's just really great. We're so glad to have you on our board, and the Biodynamic Alliance is very lucky.
Oh, likewise. I'm so proud to be on your board. I'm so impressed by all the work that you are doing and the organization has been doing for so many years. It's really incredible. Biodynamics brings such a beautiful tone of voice to the work that humans do, is how I like to see it. So thank you so much, Sheila. So nice to speak to you. Yes, Demeter USA has put the website of the Biodynamic Demeter Alliance in the chat. Please have a look at the work they're doing. It's amazing, or that we're doing. We love it, and we need support. It's really easier when we feel like a lot of people are supporting and applauding. It just makes it so much more fun.
Yeah.
So thank you to all of you who do.
Thank you, and please feel free to follow us. We'd love to.
So nice. Perfect.
Right.
Yep, there's the ID. Follow right there, Biodynamics BDA. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
So good to see you, Arizona. Take care.
Bye.
Happy International Soil Day.
You too.
Bye-bye.